Feeling my way through the darkness, guided by a beating heart.
My name is Ronnie Blackburn, and I'm with Holistic Health Practitioners of Greater Cincinnati. And this is my first webinar video for everyone. And I have a special guest, Jen Beck, who is, well, I'll have Jen kind of introduce herself. She has an amazing company called Complete Health Revolution, and she is a registered nutrition consultant. And she has a lot to bring to the table. Jen and I actually have just recently met, but she has been in the Westchester community and this area for quite some time. And we got a chance to sit down. We got a chance to learn a little bit more about each other. And so I wanted to introduce Jen because I think that what Jen has to say would really resonate with a lot of people within our community. And so, Jen, tell people just a little bit about yourself and like how you got into this. Tell them, what you do.
Sure. Thanks for having me, first of all. I'm super excited to be a part of this community. Nutrition and wellness and holistic health has been a passion of mine for the last, I'd say 17, 18 years. I've been practicing in nutrition and lifestyle coaching for about the last 16 and a half years. I did not wake up a nutritionist or have that kind of an upbringing. I was one of those typical average kids where we ate a lot of, packaged convenience foods because my mom had multiple sclerosis my entire life. And after working a full 8-hour day, really didn't have the energy to come home and do a lot of home cooking meals and stuff. And so for me, I remember being in high school, I ate peanut butter and jelly and white bread with a bag of Doritos, a Hostess cupcake, and a Diet Mountain Dew. Every day, 5 days a week for 4 years. And I can't say that my diet got better in my early 20s by any means. Then it was, half a pot of coffee, a donut, lunch was fast food, still tons of Diet Mountain Dew, sugar. And sugar was low calorie and low fat, so that was good, right?
Well, yeah, and nobody could relate with what you just said, right?
Right. So I was living how pretty much everybody else I knew was living at that point in time. Mm-hmm. And I was about 26 years old, and I got a wake-up call. Like I said, my mom has had multiple sclerosis my whole life, and when I was 26, she went through a series of relapses where she went from living on her own to being in a nursing home in 6 weeks. And she was on all the preventative drugs to make sure that those relapses never happened. She was doing everything her doctors told her to do. And yet here she is laying in a nursing home, incapacitated from the waist down and losing strength. And I was like, wait a minute, something has to be able to help her because obviously medications aren't doing what they're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So I started looking at alternative medicine and, looked at a lot of different things. And I went to a conference that was being done by a pharmacist. And this pharmacist was talking about the healing benefits of superfoods. And during the course of his presentation, he was talking about his wife, who ironically had MS for 26 years, just like my mom had. And
I'd say what a coincidence.
Right? The only issue that his wife had is if she walked across a huge ballroom, she had to hold her husband's arm for stability. My mom had been walking with a cane since I was about 4. So I was like, what is the difference between these two? Because they had such incredible differences in the results. So I got a chance to be able to talk with her afterwards. And I said, what did you do to manage your MS? Because, here's my mom's story. And she said, well, my husband doesn't believe in the medications because there wasn't enough long-term studies that were done. There's the side effects were risky enough that the benefits didn't outweigh the potential side effects. So I didn't do any medications whatsoever. I built up my body to be as strong as I could with diet, supplements, and exercise. Right. And I remember thinking about that and going, wow, I don't ever remember my mom exercising, ever. We ate a lot of packaged processed foods. We had balanced meals. It was a can of green beans, a can of cream corn, instant potatoes, and Salisbury steak out of the freezer.
Right.
So they were balanced. May not necessarily be nutritionally dense, but they were balanced. And she took supplements for 6 months when I was in 6th grade and said, these things don't work. I'm not taking them anymore. And they're too expensive anyhow. And so in my mind, I'm like, well, what if what this woman had done, what if my mom would have done the same thing? What would her results have been? Could they have been different? And so that I started doing a lot of research into nutrition, and it was amazing because I saw people, by changing their diet and lifestyle, reversing MS and heart disease and cancer and diabetes and fibromyalgia and, you know, all of these things that I thought were life sentences were all of a sudden reversed, healed, diminished, you name it. So that's what prompted me to go get a certification in nutrition from a school out in California, the School of Nutritional Sciences. And for the last 17 years, 16 and a half, almost 17 years, I've been working with folks and helping them to reclaim their health and recharge their lives. And for me, it's not just a career or not just a profession, but for me, it's really a passion. Because in my mind, there is no reason that anybody should have to do what we did. I mean, we put my mom in a nursing home at 49 years old. It's unbelievable for me to think about. That's 6 years older than I am right now. She lived in that nursing home for 20 plus years before she passed.
So that's your why then.
Yeah, absolutely. It's being able to help people, not just to feel better or to lose weight or, you know, to get healthier, but truly to thrive and to, you know, to embrace life and have an amazing amount of vitality. You know, when they wake up in the morning, they jump out of bed like a kid on Christmas morning, and they stay that way all day long until they go to bed. Like, that's how I live my life today. But I can tell you in my 20s, it absolutely was not the case. I was dragging myself out of bed. It was making it through the day. It was exhausted in the evening, and it was getting up and doing the same thing the next day.
Wow.
You know, it's really helping people to thrive and to live life with vitality.
So where did you get your drive? I mean, that takes a lot. I mean, it's not like you just suddenly like flip the switch and like, oh, well, I think I'll just start being healthier now. I mean, you have that why, I know that kicks in, but you still have to have, I mean, a lot of people are probably in that situation possibly, but where do you get your drive from? I mean, how do you get that mental strength to be able to do what you do?
So for me, it's developed over the years, for sure. Like when I first started making healthier choices, I can't say that I went like, oh, I'm going to go 100% organic. I'm going to eat only fruits and vegetables and lean proteins and healthy fats. And I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And like, I mean, it didn't jump there. Mm-hmm. For me, my first step was, if I went out to eat at a restaurant, I would take, you know how a burger is like this big and then a bun is like this big? So anything that wasn't vital to the actual bite of a burger that I was going to eat, I cut off all the extra bread. Like that was my first step, right? And then it got to be, I'm going to eat half the bun, and then I'm going to skip the bun, and then I'm going to add veggies in either with my fries or instead of my fries. So it was very, very gradual in how I accomplished that. But the more that, and then I started taking a multivitamin and I did a cleanse. And I mean, it was just layer after layer after layer, but it was, oh, I feel better. Well, what else could I do? Well, I feel even better. What else could I do? Right? I mean, one of the biggest changes I did was drink more water. I will never forget. I mean, I was living on a half a pot of coffee in the morning just to wake up, Rodney.
Wow.
And diet out and do the rest of the day. And one of the biggest things that I changed that had the greatest impact is water. Mm-hmm. I woke up in the morning, I started with water instead of coffee. My coffee.
Now, why water? Why water? So it's like, everybody's like, oh my God, I don't even like drinking water. You know, I got to put something in it. You know, it's like, but why water? Seriously. I mean, it sounds like a stupid question, but.
It's essential for every function in our body. For digestion, for detoxification, for brain function, for eyesight, for joint health, for elimination, for nutrient absorption, for carrying nutrients to our cell. I mean, it's important for every single function in our body. 2% dehydration, you end up with brain fog. That's when brain fog kicks in, is 2% dehydration. And most of our population is chronically dehydrated, like 70%.
Yeah.
So like I have people, they're like, oh, I've got dry eyes, or I've got joint pain, or I'm constipated. I've got, you know, mid-afternoon fatigue. Yeah, I mean, you name it. Drink more water. I promise you, if you do nothing else, drink more water and you'll feel better.
You're making me thirsty. I gotta drink my tea. No, well,
with a lot of my clients, their first goal is to do the gallon challenge. Over the course of a day, finish 1 gallon of water and do that for a week.
I like that, the gallon challenge.
And it's amazing. I don't think I've ever had anybody that's done it and they haven't felt better and they haven't gotten more results.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's a cleansing mechanism at the same time.
Yeah.
Help getting and flowing, get that stuff out of your body. I mean, through your liver and kidneys and so forth.
Yeah.
I like your approach though, because I know like when we sat down, one of my conversations, because I think I'm a pretty average guy, as far as I definitely have been on the side of the guy who eats Big Macs, and has had an occasional cigarette or had some alcohol or something like that. Those damaging things that we do to ourselves. But, I know that for most people, at least for myself, it's well, I want to do this, but, we all think that we have to be like all in, like you said, or that we don't have to be all in. We just have to take baby steps,
Yeah.
Of getting there. And even for myself right now, it's like, I just make these subtle changes as I go through. And what I've noticed, even since the last time that we've met, and I started doing more tea, I started drinking more water, I started just adjusting, switching the fries out for some veggies, less pasta, getting away from the carbs and so forth. Still having some carbs, still having my little, tasty treat, understanding that what it does affect, if you got blood sugar issues, those sort of things. But I love the way that, if I have to do it my way, you know what I'm saying? To get to the result. Not everybody's going to do it the same way.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, everything is based on the individual. Any of my work, as much as I have, templates or kind of modules that I work with clients, we do stuff around mindfulness. We do things to help you figure out what your metabolic design is, how much protein, carbohydrate, and fat that your body needs specifically. And then out of each one of those categories, which is the best protein for you, which is the best fat for you, which is the best carbohydrates for you. We do things around detoxing, around gut restoration, exercise, mentality is such a huge piece of every one of those. But it's as much as I have modules that, I've created over the years that help people kind of know the right tools and the right steps for that particular thing. Every person that I work with is different. Mm-hmm. Because every person that I work with is different.
Right.
There is no cookie cutter. You can't have the same, 6 or 12 sessions with somebody and go, this is what we do. This is all we do. And everybody's the same. It has to be based on the individual, because I work with people that, I've got one gal that, for example, of a client, she's in her early 60s. She's been on blood pressure medications, multiple blood pressure medications for 30 years. She's a lifetime member of Weight Watchers for 40 years, and is still on Weight Watchers once or twice a year, every year for the last 40 years. Okay. Rheumatoid arthritis, all kinds of health issues. And by changing her diet in 3 months, we were able to get her off of all of her blood pressure medications because she didn't need them anymore. Not because we said stop taking them, it's because her blood pressure dropped too low and her doctor's like, stop taking it. She dropped 40 pounds and put her rheumatoid arthritis into remission. That's in 3 months. Where before she was on one of those shake programs at the hospital and she lost 4 pounds in a year. And they said, great job, keep going, you're doing awesome. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me?
Oh my gosh.
Right? So it's things like that. Or, I've got another guy that has psoriatic arthritis for multiple years. And 2 of those, he couldn't close his hand and make a fist. And he's a mechanic for GE. Uh-huh. And couldn't, because of his arthritis, couldn't close his hand, couldn't go fishing, couldn't do so much. And in 30 days of changing his diet, doing a cleanse and throwing some supplements in there that were specific to him, 0 pain.
So let me ask you. So the biggest conversation that I noticed that when I talk to all the practitioners within our community and is inflammation.
Yes.
Okay. And then the second thing I want you to touch on after that is you and I had a conversation, which I know that you and I will be doing very soon, is doing a metabolic design.
Yeah.
So if you can talk about those two things, that would be incredible.
Sure. So inflammation is at the root of all disease. It's been linked to heart disease, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, strokes, you name it. And inflammation is caused by a lot of things that we ingest, right? Whether it be toxins from the air, the water that we drink, GMOs in our food, herbicides and pesticides, hormones, things like, a lot of the big food sensitivities that we have are a huge trigger for inflammation. Things like gluten, dairy, corn, soy, peanuts, eggs for some people are huge sources of inflammation. And that inflammation, like think about if you get a bee sting, right? It swells. Well, that's acute inflammation from that bee sting. And it's helping your body to get that infection out, right? Attacking that is our immune system. When we have systemic inflammation, every one of our cells is inflamed like that bee sting. So now, because of that swelling, because of that inflammation, we can't get nutrients in and we can't get toxins out. The more inflammation we have in our gut, the more we develop leaky gut syndrome. And that leaky gut syndrome then leads to autoimmune disorders. So looking at all of these things combined, the number one thing that somebody can do to improve their health is decrease their inflammation.
And so then that leads me into this metabolic design where you basically said, well, I can tell you how this food and that food affect you, good and bad, and then what's better suited for, your genetic makeup, versus somebody else's. So it's very specified.
Right. So within the metabolic design assessment, it's a 64-question assessment that we do in our office. And it looks at your body's physical characteristics, and then it looks at how your body reacts when you introduce certain foods, right? So if you eat red meat, how does it affect you? Or fatty foods, are you more energetic? Are you less energetic? Or is there no difference? Mm-hmm. If you're upset and angry and you eat sweets, does it make your mood better, worse, or no change? Right? So it's looking at how your body responds to certain foods like that. And then we also do a week of specific food journaling. So we're looking at really acutely, like on a practical basis. How do you feel? Mood, energy, mental clarity, digestion, cravings, because all of those, again, are indicative of which foods are working for us and which ones aren't. So I take those two pieces of information and be able to put those together. And then that tells us what your metabolic design is, which is how much protein, how much carbs, and how much fat your body needs. Your metabolic design is essentially how quickly your body converts food into energy. Okay. So, and it can have such a massive impact. I have a client who, we did her metabolic design, and before she was eating for metabolic design, she was about 35, 40 pounds overweight. She was addicted to sugar. She lived on Diet Cokes. She struggled to wake up in the morning. She was moody all day long, falling asleep at 7 o'clock at night on the couch, and disengaged with her two daughters who were 9 and 11 and didn't have the energy to take them to their activities. We do a metabolic design. She changes the way that she eats, so now she's in line with what her body needs. She's forcing herself to go to bed at 11 o'clock at night. She's dropped 9 pounds in 2 weeks. Her sugar cravings are gone, and her coworkers are happy she's at work versus dreading it. And it's just because her body was finally getting what it needed versus the healthy stuff that she was feeding it.
Yeah. The coworkers are probably, you probably got some business from her coworkers because they were like, wow, if you could do that to her.
Right, yeah.
No, I mean that's amazing. It's so, it's kind of like, well, that seems pretty simplistic, or just common sense wise, but when you do the metabolic design, how do you really get to the root of the problem besides just asking questions? I know that it's like it's kind of like, here, sample this food and see what it does, make a note of that. But do you do like blood work, or like how does it go from like beginning to end? Not to give away your secrets of what you do.
No, so I mean, we do a health history. So when I work with somebody, we look at the complete picture, because I really want to dig into what's their sleep like, what's their water intake like, what's their lifestyle like, what's their stress like, right? Because all of those things feed into how our body is functioning. So the metabolic design is one piece of the pie versus, really looking at our bodies in a holistic way. Think about, like, if you go to a doctor, a lot of times you're going to a specialist outside of your GP, right? So you've got one doctor that does cardio, you've got one that does gastro, you've got one that does endocrinology, and they all look at their piece of the pie, but the right hand's talking to the left hand. So you really don't know if what they're telling you to do is working or not. I had one client, she was 71 years old. She's on 11 different medications. Her most recent one, they put her on because she was eating. So they put her on a medication that they give to AIDS patients to increase her appetite.
Wow. And then what are the side effects of that one and all the other?
Right. So here's the challenge. She's on 11 different medications. Her family knows why she's taking it, but they don't look at any of the side effects because they don't know to. So I go through her meds, and not that I am a doctor by any stretch of the imagination. I'm a detective. And then I say, if we're talking medical stuff that's outside of my scope, go talk to your doctor, go talk to this person, go talk to that person. But it's looking at and being a detective and kind of highlighting some areas that might not be working. So when I was going through the potential side effects, she was on one that decreases zinc in your body. It blocks the absorption of zinc. Well, if you don't have enough zinc in your body, you end up losing your sense of smell, which decreases your appetite. It's a really big issue in the elderly population where they have a zinc deficiency and they lose their sense of smell, so they don't have an appetite. So they don't eat, they become emaciated and die. So looking at this, so she's lost her sense of smell, so she doesn't have an appetite because of a medication that she's on. And so now they're giving her a medication to be able to increase her appetite that has other side effects. One being low blood pressure. So now she has low blood pressure, so she stands up and she falls all the time. So she's had like 3 or 4 falls before I met her, and that's why she was sitting in the seat, because her daughter is like, I don't know what to do with my mom. Like, the doctors aren't working. Like, there's stuff going on. We just don't get it. And so I said, go back and talk to your doctor about this, and about this, and see if he's got any other options to be able to kind of do other things, or what he needs to be able to see for her to get off those medications, or, support-wise. Because we can look at supplements, we can look at foods and things like that we can help support the body and help the body function the way that it should, versus relying on medication. So she went back, they adjusted her medications, they took her off the AIDS one, they switched out the one that was causing low blood pressure. And she had an amazing shift in how she was functioning. She wasn't falling anymore. She started eating again, and she started gaining weight.
Right.
So sometimes we've got to look at the big picture to be able to find the root cause of what's going on. And like I said, I'm not a doctor by any means, but I am a detective, and my goal is to be able to help somebody figure out what that root is, and then what else can we do to support the body so that we can function properly and heal and thrive.
I like that. You're a health detective.
Yeah. Well, because I do. I mean, like, so when I'm working with somebody, we look at, what do you need to eat? Like, what's helping you figure out what's best for your body? And then also, what's eating you? Because if we only address the food piece of it, but we don't address the psychological and emotional and mental drivers for why we do what we do, we're missing the boat. Because that's why we do the things that we do in the first place. How do we heal our relationship with food? How do we heal our food story? How do we find the motivation to keep going even when we've got those roadblocks?
Sure.
It's those pieces that help us to get to the other side where we can thrive and have it be second nature, versus like, oh my God, I've got to scrutinize what I'm eating again. I've got to count calories or points or weigh my food or do X, Y, and Z. And we scrutinize every morsel that goes in our body, and then we're stressed.
Right.
About what we're
And
eating.
of course, that only leads to, doing some bad decisions because you're stressed.
Right? And then we've got guilt about what we just ate. Yeah. That's crazy.
And so I want to touch on, because what you're actually describing is taking a holistic approach. And some people kind of get an idea of what that means. So I want you to talk about that. And then I also want you to talk about, you have your network of practitioners. So you don't just try to take on this whole thing by yourself.
No.
You know, so even with yourself, you have surrounded yourself with other practitioners that help and support you in your health and wellness on
Absolutely.
different levels. And, you know, so if you can touch on both of those things, that would be great.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, a holistic approach is looking at the body as a whole. It's body, mind, soul, and spirit, right? And if we only look at just the physical piece, if we're doing things that aren't supporting our physical health, we're usually doing that to compensate somewhere in mental, emotional, or spiritual. So we're trying to fill that void with food, with wine, alcohol, period, cigarettes or tobacco, drugs, or over-exercising, right? So those are all ways that we physically fill a gap for some other area of our life, or sleep, right? Some people just sleep all the time versus, you know, dealing with what's on their plate. So we've got to be able to look at, you know, the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical to be able to approach something holistically. And it's looking at the body as a whole and knowing that there is not one end all be all. So our body and our health is 70% what we stick in our mouth. But it is not the only thing that equates to health. We also have to look at the fact that we need exercise, we need sleep, we need restoration, we need water, we need body work, right? I mean, chiropractic, massage, acupuncture. We need energy work because we store issues in our tissues.
Now, hold on. I'm gonna pause you. So, what's energy work? Because again, you're talking to a wide audience here.
Right. So, energy work is, so we store our issues in our tissues. If you think about positive experiences in our life, right? They make us happy, they make us joyful, they make us excited. We want to share those feelings with everyone, and we do. So we embody those experiences and we release them through energy that we share with other people. Okay. When we have something that is traumatic or shameful or negative or, you know, terrifying happen to us, most times we are going to store that in our tissues, right? Because we don't want to share those emotions with somebody else. I don't want to hurt somebody else. I don't want to make somebody else feel bad. I don't want to, you know, have somebody else deal with that. Mm-hmm. I don't want to deal with it myself. So I'm just going to bury it over here and just kind of hope it goes away.
Or you have a PTSD because of a traumatic experience and you don't know how to release it.
Yes.
Because, which that's a whole other conversation, but anyhow.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, our subconscious mind is designed to keep us safe, protect us, and make life easy. Mm-hmm. Dealing with trauma is none of those things. So instead of releasing that, we store it. Mm-hmm. So we manifest disease out of emotional things that we store in our body. So there's tons of different ways that we can release energy, right? There's people that do something called body talk and Reiki and hypnotherapy. And, you know, I mean, there's lifeline technique, there's NET, there's all different types of emotional release work. I mean, you can do things like journaling or taking a baseball bat out to a junkyard and putting somebody's picture on the back of a trunk and beating it up, right? I mean, there's lots of things we can do to release this energy that's been stored up in our body. But if we don't release that, it can easily manifest in disease.
Gotcha.
So there's some research that says that liver issues and gallbladder stones mm-hmm. are because of crystallized anger. So when we release that, we can be able to help our body to heal because we no longer have that interference or that energetic imbalance.
Right. Now, I'm going to pause you for a second because now this is the part of me that as I go through this process, and I want people to understand is that, you know, in creating this community, I created because at that point, like a lot of you, that you have to be open-minded.
Yes.
In order to be able to receive and create possibility that something, you know, it's possible, and then so you can take action. And so when I started looking at a lot of these different modalities that are out there, like Tibetan bowl singing, you know, it's like, wow, that sounds kind of hokey. That's my favorite word to use. Weird, odd. I can't really resonate with that. But like, if you take out the word Tibetan bowl and singing, and you actually look at the science of it, and not just the testimonials of millions of people, but if you look at the science of it, you're like, oh, well, that makes sense. And so the reason I bring this up is because, keeping that open mind, and we're talking about Reiki, we're talking about energy, is that, we have people who are religious, people who are not religious, or kind of maybe in between. There's a lot of this stuff that may seem like out of your wheelhouse, out of the ballpark. So how do you talk to people when you're trying to get them to take more of a holistic approach like this?
Yeah. So I used to call it woo-woo, right?
Woo-woo. Okay, I like woo-woo.
Way out there. And it's in the right time and the right time frame. Mm-hmm. For me, a lot of times I share my personal experiences. I had a lot of trust issues based on my parents' divorce when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And it cost me years of really healthy relationships, to the point where if I hadn't done energy work, chances are I wouldn't be married today. Because
or it wouldn't have lasted very long.
Huh?
I said, or it wouldn't have lasted very long.
Yeah, well, no, I tried giving the ring back a number of times because I was so worried about him leaving that I was going to leave first.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. It manifested.
I'm going to slam the door on you before you can do it to me.
Yeah, right? And so, I had a really good friend of mine ask me, she goes, so Jen, what part of this discord and these arguments is your fault? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I just told you all the stuff that you did. And she's like, yeah. And there are two sides to every story, and there are two sides to every argument and every relationship breakdown. So what's your part in this? And I was like, I don't know. She goes, you might want to be able to look at some of the stuff from a different perspective, and there may be stuff in there that you're not even aware of, right? I call these our hidden drivers.
Right.
I've seen a lot in people that struggle to lose weight, and they've been on and off the diet roller coaster, or they've got relationship challenges and things like that, because we have these events that have happened in our past. Typically 0 to 8 is like the biggest window of things that we take on and we create a story about, and they become our truths, even though they may not be, right? So for example, if you have somebody that as a kid, their mom and dad is fighting about money all the time. Well, now in their mind, they make the decision, the story up in their mind, that money equals pain, money equals arguments, money might even equal divorce.
Right.
Parents get divorced. So they'll have money issues their entire life, because if they have money, that's going to lead to pain. Mm-hmm. Is it true? No, but in their young mind, that becomes their reality. And because we have zero conscious cognitive abilities to be able to disseminate what's right and what's wrong, what's true and what's false when we're a kid,
right,
that just becomes true. So it gets locked in our subconscious mind, and it creates a trigger. So any scenario that feels the same way, even though it's a totally different scenario, it can trigger that same response.
Right. And a lot of times we don't know that we're being triggered, or where it's stemming from right, something in our past kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like the adult that has money issues has no idea that it's linked back to being a kid. Period.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I've noticed even that for myself in a lot of areas of my life. I have to go back. I have to find out, like, where is this stemming from? And it's tough, because you really have to take a look at yourself and be willing to say, yeah, that's me. And, like looking at the death of my mother, it happened when I was 10 years of age, and I'm not going to get into that whole story, but it had such a huge effect, and not realizing it, Yeah. So getting back to the holistic approach. So that's the mental.
And one more thing about energy.
What's that?
One more thing about energy work.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So the whole thing is that you don't necessarily have to go back and retrace it. Like, a lot of times in therapy, you go back and rehash everything and reanalyze everything.
Sure.
Understanding why is kind of the booby prize. The freedom to be free of that stuff is really the true goal and the true prize. That's what energy work has the ability to do, is to release that trigger, to release that emotional, stick, and to be free of all that stuff versus having to go back and retrace it. So most energy work, you don't have to go back and rehash it. The practitioner has the ability to access and talk to your subconscious mind to be able to release that and free you from those triggers and from that stuff that's keeping you blocked.
Well, yeah, I mean, and think about how powerful that is when you get an aha moment or you turn a breakdown into a breakthrough.
Right.
And I mean, that's life altering. Then something else or multiple things open up to where, you know, you can actually then have a breakthrough in your diet, or you can have a breakthrough in your relationship and many other areas. So I'm assuming that's a part of what you do holistically with people.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And so then tying in or pulling in some of these other practitioners, I mean, if you think just within yourself, you know, like I was talking to Jackie Groenwegen, who does thermography, and one of the things that she and I had a dialogue was about this, having like your circle of influence and having people in place and not waiting until, you know, the stuff hits the fan. And it's like, oh, now I need a naturopathic doctor, or, oh, I need somebody like Jen Beck, or, you know, it's like, start creating your team now. So I know that you have a team. And so get into that piece of it, because that is a holistic approach, because just because you can do some magnificent things with people doesn't mean that it can't be accentuated or made even better, you know, in working with some other practitioners.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so every person is unique and individual. So let's take a client that I have that has MS, and we got him leaps and bounds ahead by increasing his water, changing his diet, things like that. But sending him to a chiropractor that deals specifically with upper cervical has the ability to then enhance how his neurological system is functioning, helping that to be able to open up and helping his nervous system function that much better. And then somebody like Kim Wooten, who does neurofeedback, you know, she has statistics and stats from MS patients where 50% of the people that did neurofeedback had relief of their symptoms and became symptom free. You know, so bringing in two different people that work in the neurological pathway in different modalities can be able to benefit one person that has a significant autoimmune disorder, but be able to impact that as a team versus person, right? Same thing with like ADD, same thing with weight loss. I mean, I'm not an exercise physiologist. I'm not a personal trainer. That's not my forte, not my specialty. But I absolutely have a team of personal trainers that I can be able to refer to if somebody is timid in the gym, if somebody needs one-on-one attention, if somebody needs Pilates or yoga, or they want boot camps, right? I mean, I have an arsenal of practitioners that I can bring in as a team so that we can be able to help somebody get better, right? If something's out of my scope, I'll refer them to a functional medicine doctor, because they can do lab testing that can look at specifically what else is going on that we may be missing or that we need additional support to.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, one of my favorite sayings, teamwork makes the dream work, especially in this scope. I mean, it's, you know, I think so many people, you know, are at the end of their rope in certain places in their life, especially, you know, we want to feel better. I know just in the community, you know, I've seen people who, I spoke with a lady who had possible cancer. And then we have parents chiming in and posts and people asking questions about, gosh, there's some things I've never even heard. I can't even probably pronounce some of the things, you know, of the things that they're not just they're going through, but their kids, their husband, their wife, parents, friends, you know, and things of that nature. And it's a wonder that, you know, we've grown as fast as we have. And so a lot of times people can't think that, well, Jen, you can't help me with mine, or, you know, it's like, what do you say to that? You know, I mean, you've seen it, you've been in the group.
Yeah. You know, and it really depends on the individual. Like I'll be honest, I'm not going to be the solution for everyone. There's, you know, with diet being 70% of our health, there's absolutely a lot I can be able to do to impact and help somebody kind of get that jump start going and figuring out, okay, so how do I maximize this piece of what I can control, and then what else is going on from there? Mm-hmm. You know, but so much of it is looking at what can I do, right? So for me, when I work with somebody, it's helping them to understand that they're in control. They're in the driver's seat of their health, of their life. So relying on anybody to fix them is going to put us in the same scenario as going to a doctor and putting our sole trust into a doctor of, well, I don't know what to do, so like, these are my symptoms, fix me. We want to make sure that we're looking at, how do I take my health into my own hands and seek out a team that can be able to help me get better. So that's a little side.
And there's no easy button. There's no, I mean, if that's the case, then we keep going back to our family, you know, doctors and saying, give me a pill, because that's basically like, we want an easy button. Yeah. And we want things very simplistic, and sometimes it's not that way. And I know that even for myself, you know, I'll call myself out. It's difficult, you know, for me at times, you know, as far as the diet, or it has been. Mm-hmm. And I'm starting, you know, to make those subtle changes in the difference that it's making. But I mean,
and we're all human, right? I mean, it's like, we've got to remember that life happens and we can't be perfect. Mm-hmm. You know, after I had my daughter, I was dealing with some hypoglycemia issues. And as a result, my sugar cravings were, oh my God, through the roof. Like, I mean, my clients are like, oh, you have no idea. You've never had this issue. And I'm like, look, you don't know where I've been or where I've come from. But I think back to those days when it was like, shortly after her, I was sleepless. Like, I mean, very little sleep at night, stressed during the day about being the perfect parent, and trying to make sure that she was taken care of, everything was fed, and the house was running, all those things. And so dealing with the physiological side of sugar cravings and the psychological, because I just wanted to feel better. I wanted that little bit of that euphoric rush that sugar creates for a few minutes. And I remember driving around going, okay, so what could I get? I could go, oh, there's that cupcake place in Blue Ash.
You start mapping out.
And it's like, oh my God, seriously, like, where am I going to get my sugar fix today? And so, I mean, I'm human, right? Life happens, stress happens, we get, off track. Like, there's no such thing in my mind as perfection, but it's how do I make this day, this meal, the best that I can, and how do I feel the best that I can? Not to say I don't ever have a glass of red wine or some chocolate cake, but it's not my standard like it used to be.
Right. And if you fall off the wagon, if you let's say you create a goal, mm-hmm. and you want to stick to that goal, but part of those goals is that it's okay, and you shouldn't feel bad if you fall off the wagon. And not only that, but you should almost expect, not that you let yourself off the hook of what your goal is, right. But like you said, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to be out with my husband, and we're on a, out with a couple, and we're going to have a glass of wine, and we're going to maybe even, split a dessert or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I like the ideology of just burn the damn wagon. Right? Because when we get into that all or nothing, that's where we go crazy.
Like
right?
A resolution.
Yeah, this is, oh my gosh, I can't have sugar. I'm never going to have sugar again. I'm going to work out at the gym 7 days a week. I'm going to eat perfectly, and I'm going to have the size and the body that I want. And that'll last for a week or two, maybe a month if you're really committed. But I mean, come on, who can live like that 24/7 and have life happen? Like, it doesn't work. So instead, focus on 90% fuel and nourishment, 10% indulge. Like, enjoy life. Enjoy your food, enjoy life, burn the wagon, blow up the, it's like the word diet in my mind is a 4-letter word. Like, if we could just get people just focused on nourishment and how can I feel good long-term and every day versus how can I feel good in this 5 minutes? Like, oh, I need some ice cream, that'll make me feel good. Or I need some chocolate cake, that'll make me feel good. Or a drink, because all of those are short-lived. Mm-hmm. And all of those destroy our health long-term and leave us feeling worse after we eat them versus better.
Last question.
Yeah.
What because we've touched on all the questions that I wanted to ask you. I know you have a husband, you have a newborn daughter, year old?
No, 22 months. So a year and a half.
And is that your only one?
Yes. Well, we have 2 fur babies, but.
Okay, gotcha. Well, you got the dog. You got the doggies.
Yeah, we have 2 dogs.
What are some of the myths or misconceptions about? Because again, you know, we have been programmed not to be a victim, but our society, and partially to do with government regulations, and I'm not going to get down that rabbit hole or anything like that, but you know, ever since the early 1900s, when the medical industry said, hey, we're going to go this direction, okay, and of course, that's the way that our society has had to go, and that's what we're used to, like not truly understanding what a chiropractor is, right?
Right.
A chiropractor is just not cracking bones. I mean, they have so many things that people are just completely unaware of, and they're magnificent, and people are scared of them, and they shouldn't be. So what are some of the misconceptions that you've heard from people, and why should they not have, you know, those concerns?
Well, I think a big piece for me is the fact that, that all coaches are the same, and that a doctor, a dietitian, or a nurse knows, especially a doctor and a nurse, know everything about nutrition, right? Your doctor has 1 class in nutrition throughout their entire medical career.
Wow.
A doctor that practices integrative nutrition, which brings in all these other holistic practitioners into their medical practice, they have 2 to 4 classes in nutrition their entire medical career. They're not taught how to heal the body. They're taught how to manage symptoms, to diagnose, and to treat disease.
Now when you say heal the body, they're not actually, just a disclaimer, folks, just because I know that I'll speak out of turn sometimes. So when Jen is saying this, I'll let you talk about that, the healing part of it, the curing part, so sorry, before you go on.
No, that's okay. Your body is designed to heal itself.
Gotcha.
So any practitioner that's in this group has modalities that will help your body to heal. Some of it is removing toxins. Some of it is adding in specific nutrients to be able to support that. Others is opening up the neurological pathways, opening up the energy meridians, releasing negative emotions that's manifesting as disease. Like, it's all designed. All holistic practitioners are taught how to support the body in the healing process. If you break your arm, do you really need to go to a doctor? No, it'll heal by itself. You want to put in the right place, but your bone heals itself without a doctor's aid.
Right.
If you cut yourself, it heals. Your body has natural defense mechanisms against everything from cancer to the common cold.
Right.
The challenge is that we take in so much toxin on a daily basis. We take in so much negativity on a daily basis. We have so much impact on our physical standard or sedentary, which causes immobilizations and stiffness and clogs in our lymphatic system. And all of these different things are causing our body dis-ease.
Right.
So holistic practitioners help you figure out what your body needs to heal itself. And they have tools to be able to help your body heal. They don't heal your body heals itself. A doctor has been taught how to diagnose, treat, medicate, radiate it, cut it out, nuke it, because that's what they've been taught to do. Right. In the last, how many decades, our pharmaceutical companies are funding our medical schools versus natural. And yes, I could go off on a whole tangent about this.
Yeah, we don't want to go down there.
No.
At least not as of right now. We'll say that for another conversation.
Yeah. But I mean, my point is the fact that doctors absolutely have their time and place. Like, if my arm is hanging off by a tendon, don't sprinkle some herbs on it and tell me I'll be okay. Give me drugs and surgery at that point.
Yes.
But I think the greatest lie that's ever been told is the absence of symptoms equals health. Well, the absence of symptoms does not equal health. It equals the absence of symptoms. Mm-hmm. thriving with health, wellness, and vitality is something we need to work towards. And that's the essence of health.
Right. Well, and again, it's going back to putting the Band-Aid on the bullet, that if you have a symptom, you know, I made that post up about an automobile, you know, if your car's not running, you got to get to the root of the problem.
Right.
Malfunction within your car, you have to get to the root of the problem. Or if you don't, then it's going to make things worse till it does break down. And then if it breaks down, then, you know, so there are symptoms, but we don't want to just take a Tylenol, or we don't want to just take a medication to mask the symptom. Just because the pain goes away doesn't mean that what?
It doesn't mean that it's gone.
Yeah, it's not gone, right? So it's like, yeah, getting to that root of the problem. And so I guess I bring up like these misconceptions because, again, just because you don't understand Tibetan bowl singing or you don't understand something does not mean that it's not valid as far as the truth, the science, because there's some amazing things happening with people, whether it's acupuncture, whether it's, I don't know, hypnotherapy, whether it's cuddle therapy. I've heard of cuddle therapy.
Right.
You know, there's so many different things out there that are possible, you know. I mean, even meeting with Kim at Stretch Physical Therapy and Wellness. I mean, some of the things she showed me, and I was like, really? I'm like, this is really cool. And it's like you learn something new, and it's great.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me specifically, you know, because I work with so many people that are dealing with chronic issues and a lot with weight loss. You know, it's a whole calories in, calories out thing. Or, you know what I mean? Eat less and work out more and you'll be fine.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, so much of that is such ancient information, right?
Right.
You know, the fact that we focus on the quantity of foods versus the quality. There's so many myths that have come out through the health and diet industry that is just, we could spend hours talking about that. Because if you think about it, we spend $60 billion a year on weight loss and books and programs and you name it in that industry, right? $60 billion a year. How many people are in the US? Nowhere near that. So that means there's a lot of people spending a lot of money every year trying to lose the same amount and not getting results. But it's because a lot of the diet and you know, fitness industry, they regurgitate the same information with a different spin. Or they take one study, and the study is this big, right? It's a huge study, and they find one sliver of information. They go, I found the miracle. If you just do this one thing, everything else is good. Right? It's like the Dr. Oz syndrome, I call it, because if you watch Dr. Oz for a year, you're going to have 1,001 things you're going to do, and you have no idea how, if any of them apply to you, or that you should be.
Yeah, I mean, and some may work, some may not, depending, but yeah. Well, I tell you what, I really appreciate this. This is great. I can't wait to do it again. I guarantee other people want to learn more about what you do. And so can you tell them where they can find you?
Yeah. So we're on Facebook at Complete Health Revolution. You can go to our website, which is www.completehealthrevolution.com. I'm also on Twitter at Jen Beck, CHR. And I mean, we're happy to sit down with you and do a complimentary 30-minute consultation. We call it a health breakthrough session. And it's really designed for us to have a chance dedicated to you to discuss what your challenges are, what your goals are, and then help you create an action plan to go out and achieve those. Because as I told you before, our mission is to make sure that we have the ability to help people live with vitality on a daily basis. You know, my mission started because of my mom's health, and it has grown astronomically from there, that I truly want families to be able to thrive, and for women especially to be able to have the freedom of the diet struggle and that roller coaster and the self-loathing about how they look in this body image epidemic that we're dealing with right now. I want people to have the ability to love food, enjoy food, and thrive on a daily basis. So that health breakthrough session is really kind of our starting point for working with somebody and, seeing how we can be able to help them, whether it's through our online programs, working with them one-on-one, or even coming into their corporation and doing a wellness program.
That's great. Well, I just want to reiterate, just so, because I know people want to write some things down. So Jen is a registered nutrition consultant. The company is Complete Health Revolution. You can reach the website at completehealthrevolution.com, which honestly, I'm not sure if you did that or you had somebody do it, but that is a really great website. Love the colors. And you can reach Jen. Her email is jen@completehealthrevolution.com. And you want me to give them your business line?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, 513-407-5775. And for the people listening to this on a podcast, or if you're watching the video, you don't just have to live here in the greater Cincinnati area. This has just happened where we're have started this, because I know I've already had people outside of Cincinnati reach out and want to be a part of our community, because they're willing to travel to meet great people, or at least listen in and get some information that will help them to maybe find somebody in their area. So Jen, last words.
Live life, enjoy it, and be free.
Awesome. Thanks, Jen. I appreciate it. And thanks everybody for listening. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.